All right, continuing from where we left off yesterday, question 1H actually. So, explain using your own words the writer's different feelings and opinions about Ahmed while he was working for him. Give three details from anywhere in the text to support your answer. So, we've read up till paragraph right, 7, I believe. That was the last, that's where the last question was from. Yep. And so different feelings that you're looking for are from paragraph 1 to 7. Okay. Not to go beyond that. Let's see if you can find three feelings in the text that we have. I might have to zoom out a bit more. Is that readable for you at that magnification?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're just losing a bit of the text from the very first line, but that's not relevant either.
Can you please repeat the question again?
Yeah, the question: explain using your own words the writer's different feelings and opinions about Ahmad while he was working for him. Give three details from anywhere in the text to support your answer. So, as we know, the feelings are implicit and the details are from the text, as you know, the question says. So, perhaps an easier way of going about this is finding texts where he gives an opinion or says something about Ahmad and then trying to figure out a feeling from that. So, you need a, a pair of feeling, three pairs of feelings and details to go with them for those 3 marks. All right. So here's the text. Go ahead and read. I'll give you a few minutes and then we can talk about this. Okay. Line number 8. He took me to the ice house and ushered me in, apparently closing the door tight shut behind me. Okay, so this is a
Yeah.
detail. So what feeling are you getting out of this?
He wanted to show him that what ice feels like, and
So, but like, what feeling would you, or what is the writer trying to express over here? Or opinion,
um,
not
I,
necessarily feeling, but opinion.
he was trying to
Hmm?
help out with his curiosity.
Did he do that to answer, to cater his curiosity? Was that the reason why he took him to the ice house?
Yeah,
No.
because he wanted to.
If you could read again, maybe a few lines before that part.
Yeah.
Right? What do the lines before line number 8 say?
Uh, like it was as a punishment, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not helping with curiosity. If it's punishment,
Yeah.
if he did that as punishment, then what opinion or feeling would you associate with
But
closing?
feeling him to angry.
Huh?
Angry.
Ahmed wasn't
Angry.
angry. No. Uh, how about Ahmed being strict, perhaps?
Yeah.
We could say that Ahmed is strict, right? Or how was the writer feeling when he was inside the ice house?
He was scared because it was so cold inside.
He was scared, yeah. So you could say that the writer felt scared of Ahmed, perhaps, right? Because he's the one who closed him in. But if that doesn't, if that seems like a far fetch, then we can definitely go with Ahmed being strict.
And like the second detail would be he never again played with the ice because he was frightened with his experience before.
So, uh, Which line is that?
Line 15.
15. Oh, yeah, right. I never again played with ice. So you could use that to say that he became scared of Ahmed, right?
Yeah. He was frightened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
frightened, scared, same thing. In this case, they're the same thing. Okay, so you've offered two feelings and details. Uh, he was not short-tempered. Hmm. Okay, that could work. The mark scheme actually has suggested something else, but they clearly mention that credit will be given to any alternative detail if they are supported with feelings or opinions about Ahmad. So that is one way of going about it, definitely, right? That perhaps he was not, uh, what's the word you used? Short tempered, right? So he didn't give an immediate reaction to whatever the writer was doing. Okay, so in total we have three, but I'd like for you guys to look for some more because you need three individually, right? Now, how many options? I'll just tell you how many options do we have. We got one, two, three, four, five. We got six options, right? So there's more to look for, and I'd like you to spend a bit more time, look for some more, and then we can move on. Right, you're saying line number
17.
17, 15. I watched them as they worked. Is this about Ahmed?
No, like he was curious, kind of. Not curious actually.
Look, the question's asking about, the writer's feelings and opinions about Ahmed. So that's, not the writer's feelings in general.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, Afin. So you suggested that the writer was scared of Ahmed. That is something Haram suggested earlier, but the detail you're giving for it is different. So that counts as different, I believe. You're saying the text says it had been I had been working for Ahmed almost 2 years before I dared to ask. And that does show that he was perhaps scared of interacting with him more than he needed to. So yes. Do we have anything else? If not, then I'll share with you what the mark scheme has to say, and then we'll move on. And if you'd like more time and try this out, then we can obviously wait, because that's why we're here.
Um, line number 36.
Line,
And
just a sec. Line number 36 all the way down here. Okay, before he could change his mind, I grabbed a spoon, scooping out a little and putting it onto my lips. Okay,
line number 37.
37.
36.
36 is this, right? Oh wait,
It's
no, it's
37.
it's this. Okay, my bad. Very well, Ahmed said casually, try some.
Yeah. He was like enthusiastic.
Hmm?
He was feeling like happy and uh,
What do you call that happiness for Ahmed?
I don't know. Like I just cannot think of the word right now.
But words are what are important.
Yes.
Could you like without using that particular word you're looking for, can you still try and explain it?
Like he was happy that Ahmed was like finally letting him try some ice and
Yeah, but the writer was happy that Ahmad was letting him try some ice. But uh, what was Ahmad thinking about? Sorry, what was the writer thinking about Ahmad? That's the question.
that Ahmed is kind and like is finally out of his strict mood.
Huh. Uh, I don't know about that. I mean, I certainly wouldn't use the word kind, right? Uh, because if you read the text, I mean, right, if you look at the context of this thing, when he goes on and eats it, and when he, you know, feels that pain in his throat because of eating ice, Ahmed's lip curled with amusement, right? So it was sort of like, you know, a dare and a taunt, sort of. I definitely wouldn't associate kindness with him letting him try some of the ice. All right, Afin, do you have anything else? Uh, Sadistic. That's a bit harsh, but uh, I mean, I guess again that would be up to the examiner. It does sort of fit. He knew, right? So that was just what I was talking about with Haram, right? I said it was like a taunt, and you're saying sadistic. So I spluttered, and Ahmed's lip curled with amusement. So you could try that definitely. I mean, it does fit. It does fit, but I can't say whether you get a mark because it's not suggested, obviously. Right? So that would be up to the examiner to decide. So what I'll do is I'll show you what the mark scheme has to offer, uh, and then right. Okay, so there's that. So here's the mark scheme. The first is now again, right? So do credit alternative feelings and opinions if they are clearly related to and based on the text, and do credit alternative textual details if they support the feeling. So if you've taken, for example, the one being scared, right, and uh, both of you and Haram did suggest the same feeling, but you gave different details for that. If they fit, you'll get a mark. Okay, so the writer is initially surprised or unsure about Ahmed, right? Because he expected Ahmed to show displeasure, right? He realized that Ahmed is strict, or he learns to be scared of him, right? He punished him by closing the door tight shut. And the one you said, right, 2 years before I dared to ask what the ices taste like. Then Ahmed is proud or boastful. He thinks that they are not cooks and cooking is for women's business, right? So he thinks that he's above them, right? Cooks are below them, and he considers himself an entertainer. He's mocking or dismissive, right? Or he makes the writer feel inferior. And the detail, he was taunting me, he waved me away, right? And wastes so much expense on something that melts to nothing. That particular line, I believe, comes later. It comes in paragraph 9. So they've picked something from beyond the part that they've asked for in the other questions. But still, right, you could have perhaps gotten that from an earlier text as well. Then Ahmed lacks curiosity or is unimaginative, right? He doesn't care about, what they taste like or other techniques, right? And it's not a flavor in the book, so he's just sticking to that. Ahmed feels resentment or dislike towards the writer, right? He was simply a workhorse. And there's a seventh point which I right hadn't looked at earlier. It's on the next page, and he's cruel, right? So this is where the sadistic part would come in, as Afin was suggesting, and I said, right, Haram, he's not kind. So right, they're saying he's cruel, unfeeling, treats him badly, and all of these points, right, or the one that you suggested. So right, and again, looking at the mark scheme, we can sort of tune our minds into approaching the question a certain way, right? So this type of question is tricky, right? Undoubtedly it is. But if you just, get a feel of this, you have to be a bit imaginative, right, with it. And it is a literary type of question, right? So, but you know, just we need to sort of bring ourselves into that particular frame, and that's only possible when we try and when we look at what the examiner is expecting. Every time the text is different, but once you're in that frame, you can sort of get it. Okay, so coming back, let's move on to question 2. So here's question 2, and like before, just read the questions for the moment. Okay, so let's go to 2A, and right, read the sentence from the text. Ice crystals cracked and crunched against my teeth, dissolving on my tongue with a sparkling sensation. Lines 38 to 39, so that's paragraph 8. What effect does the writer suggest about the sensation of the crystals dissolving on his tongue by using the word sparkling to describe it? That's a 2-mark question. So you need to give 2 points of what sparkling, right? Why did the writer use sparkling? Even though the text was given, right? Here we are with paragraph 8. You can think about that for a minute, and then we'll see what you have. Okay, could you, yeah, well, what was your suggested response to this?
Or maybe it like creates the effect that it was a fake. It shows the feeling of excitement or thrill. Maybe.
Excitement works. Excitement or thrill would fall into perhaps the same category,
Okay.
right? So that's 1 point. Afin, do you have anything?
And like also the refreshing feeling it provides.
Refreshing.
Yeah. Or cooling.
Mm, what effect does a writer suggest about the sensation? Okay. I mean, it's not suggested refreshing, so I can't say it might work. The question is here. So you don't really need perhaps the whole text for it. You have the relevant line. And so when the question is asking about effect, you focus on the words that have been used particularly, right? Why that word, and then what that word could, like, what do you think the writer's trying to tell you with that word? So anything that you can associate with sparkling, what can you associate with something that sparkles, right? In this case, right, exciting works. It's sparkling, it's exciting, it's a right, the sensation, meaning the feeling that is getting on his tongue, right? Not so much the flavor. So it's an exciting feeling to have that ice in his mouth. What else could we say? Stimulating? No, it wouldn't go with sparkling at all. Not stimulating. Have you have you ever had that candy that when you eat it, it sort of fizzes and pops in your mouth,
Yes.
right? Could you use the word sparkling for that one?
Yeah. Maybe bubbly as well.
Well, I'm just trying to, draw parallels. It's not the exact same
Mm.
thing, obviously, because it's not like taking an ice cube in, right? It's ice crystals, like, shaved, like, sort of somewhere between shaved ice and an ice cube. Excuse me. So, one thing we could say is perhaps, right, the ice, based on the use of the word sparkling, we could say that the ice was, the feeling was it was like popping or fizzing or tingling, right? That's how it felt, perhaps. Acha, what's another thing that you would you can very easily associate sparkles with? Like when someone talks about sparkles, one thing that comes to mind.
Fireworks.
Fireworks, right? So again, popping and explosion. Okay, but I was actually thinking of something else. What's very sparkly? Perhaps it's not very obvious, I guess. So what else can you, like, associate being sparkling with? Stars? Hmm. But then how would you, you know us you know fit that in with the ice? What quality of stars would you associate with the ice, if, like, right, if you think that works? How about, okay, one simple thing you could say is that, right, along with exciting, you could say it was enjoyable, right? He enjoyed that sensation, right? It's a positive sensation. And then what about magical? Can you associate sparkling with magical?
Yes.
Right? Because, right, you have any like representation, or at least childish representation of magic, and they always have these sparkles and stars with them. Huh, Afin? You said stars, right? So magic is always sparkly, right? In most, uh, at least, childish representations. So, since we're talking about the writer who's a child in this text, so we could say that the sensation was magical. Okay, let's move on. Then we've got question 2b. Read the extract, but once I got over the initial strangeness, I found I could not forget the extraordinary flavor, nor the cold, frozen grittiness. It was as if the ice itself was enticing, daring me on. From then on, without Ahmed knowing, I tasted every ice confection we made. What does the writer want to suggest to the reader at this point in the story, right? So, just from this text, what's
What does
happening?
enticing?
What's happening over here?
Sir, what does inciting means?
Enticing?
Yes.
Enticing means something that attracts you, right?
Okay.
Let me get you a more proper definition, right? So, something that is attractive and interesting that you want to have it or know more about it. So, there's a change happening over here in this text. Can you pick on that? What's changing? Okay, so what's your suggestion, Haram?
At first, like the taste of the ice felt weird, but then he got like addicted. And he wanted to try more of it.
Hmm. Yes, that works. That does work. So that is a possible response to this question. But there's something else that's changing as well, right? So your response is correct. It definitely works. But something else is also changing. Can you pick that as well?
Like the Ahmed doesn't know that.
Hmm?
Ahmed doesn't know that.
Yeah, so if Ahmed doesn't know, then what's changing? Right? What did we talk about the writer in relation to Ahmed initially, right? That he was scared, right? But now he's doing stuff that Ahmed doesn't know, right? So uh, I wouldn't use the word brave, Afin. Bold would be better, right? He's willing to take risks, right? It's not so much as bravery as being bold, right? So that's another thing we can pick up on. And so either of those work, right? They're two very different answers, but either of those work. Okay. C. Explain why the writer uses the word creature rather than boy in the expression a creature incapable of reason. So that's line 48. That's paragraph 10. Right? So over here. And if you could just, try and be a bit quicker about this, we can try
Mm.
and finish off question two. There's not a lot of
Ahmed
time left. Hmm?
Ahmed doesn't used to think of him as like a human being and more of as like a worker and was cruel towards him.
Okay, not all of that because there's just one more questions. We'll go with the first one because that fits in very well, right? Calling him a creature instead of boy. Boy means you're considering like yes, he's a young human, right? But saying creature means that you're not even considering him to be as a human, right? The treatment is not what's focused over here. Okay. uh,
Yes.
how else can we possibly express that? I mean that's one way of saying it, right? What else can you associate with someone calling another person an animal or a creature, right? Or thinking them of lesser as being human. What could you say for that? That what do they feel about the other
Mhm.
person? How are they?
Inferior.
Exactly. So you could say that Ahmed thought of the writer as inferior. Okay, now again, either of those work because those are given in the mark scheme. And it's because of questions like these when students leave the examination hall and they're discussing their answers and they're like, oh, I wrote this, you wrote that, how does that work? And sometimes they're like, you could have three or four different questions, and in some cases, and they're all correct, right? And so students would squabble over that, and you'd all get marks as well. Afin, are you following? Right? Is this helping? Okay. Question D. What two impressions, right? So impressions is the words used and the kind of image those words are putting into your head. And right, again, all the context that you can fit with those words, the way they are used. And so make that, even if like you don't need a realistic image, right? So you can make that ridiculous kind of image with like we did with the sparkling, right? You can have explosions and magic and stuff on his tongue. Of course, like his tongue is not blowing up, right? There's no magic actually happening, but you know, we can think of that. So over here, what two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in this sentence? And so I learned the subtle art of more complex water ices for Betty, in which the syrups themselves are frozen, transforming magically to mounds of glittering crystals, and sherbets, the most difficult and enchanting of all, expertly infused with fragrant cardamom and resembling refrozen snow. So, what two things can come to mind when you read this?
It was something usual than usual, different.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
It was something different from the like usual ice.
Could you use a word for that? Something that is different from the usual.
Extraordinary, not
Yes.
extra. Oh,
Yes, extraordinary. Right. So, uh, right, what he's doing or what he's learning to make something extraordinary. What else? You can, focus on certain words and then uh, think of those. Anything else? Afin, do you have anything? Hmm. It seems out of this world.
Yeah,
Well, you
transforming
already,
magically.
well, I mean, you've already said extraordinary, but how else could you, I mean, like out of this world in what way?
Like transforming magically to molds of glittering
Okay,
crystals.
so magical, right? One of the suggested uh, points is wizardry, right? So, but does it use the term like the word magical in the text? Yeah, it does. Now see over here, you cannot use the word from the text itself. Okay, if it says transforming magically to mounds of glittering crystals, and you say, oh, it conveys that it was very magical. It's that they've already given that, so they're asking you to go say something else about that, and that's why they've suggested wizardry, right? You'd say, well, they're the same thing. Yes, they're the same thing. They just want you to say it a different way. Okay. How about saying over here, I learned the subtle art. What would that mean? Learning a subtle art. Hmm? Or expertly infused. What does expertly tell you? It's not everyone's work, which means what? If not everyone can do it, then what would you say about the people who can do it?
Like they are very experienced,
Experience come like, okay, but other than that, what do they have that others don't have?
a special ability to do.
Can you give me a better word for special ability?
I can think of it at the moment.
Right? We can say it's a skill,
Oh yeah,
right? You could say that it's not everyone, right? It's difficult to make it, right? You need to be skillful. Okay. And, you know, learning the subtle art of more complex. What does complex tell you?
it's difficult.
Yeah, so, right, it's hard to do, right? It needs skill. So all of these fall into, according to Cambridge, the same point. Okay, so we've gotten extraordinary, we've gotten skillful or hard or difficult, and just make sure that the word you're using is not already given in the text. We've gotten wizardry, right? Fragrant cardamom. So what does that tell you? Fragrant. Yes, it has a nice smell. You can say that, right? And also mounds of glittering crystals, right? Talking about the sorbeti, mounds of glittering crystals. What does that tell you? What does it tell you about the appearance?
Like it was shiny.
Uh, you could say sparkling. Remember sparkling,
Yeah,
right? You could say sparkling, you could say appealing, it looked beautiful, right? It, I mean, uh, have they used the word enticing in this particular text? No. I would still not use it, perhaps, right? Because it's used elsewhere. Uh, so they may or may not credit. So appealing, right? Mesmerizing, yes. Mesmerizing works. Okay, so it will take a few more minutes. Do you guys want to complete this today? Move on to the last question of this comprehension. Do you guys have time?
Yes.
Afin? Okay. So here's the question. One example and 2 points of explanation of how the writer uses language effectively to convey his feelings once he begins his double life. Right? It's all over here. Right? I believe this is the last paragraph. Yeah. So all of that, there are multiple examples to pick from. Just pick one, right? The easiest one you feel that you can explain, and then write that example. That's directly copy paste, and then the explanation is up to you. So if you can just do that quickly, we'll be done with this part.
Instruction dutifully, and by night I was a kind of alchemist.
Okay. If you go with all of that, then how would you explain it?
That his life had gotten a bit hectic,
Hectic. Okay. What else?
and
You need 2 points explanation, right?
that the work he was doing were nothing alike,
Uh, could you repeat that?
and like the work he was doing were nothing alike.
What he was doing by day and what he was doing by night were complete opposites.
Yeah.
Right. So you could say that, right? His activities during the day as compared to the night were complete opposites of each other, right? Okay. So that may work. Afin, do you have something? Without method or purpose. Okay. That is a suggested example. He was not sure of what he was doing and he wasn't expecting a specific result. Okay, so those are good explanations. Right? Without method, he didn't know what he was doing, and without purpose, he wasn't expecting anything to happen either. Okay, so both of you got something that works. I will take you again to the mark scheme, and just something I want to highlight as well. Okay, so Haram, what you suggested as the example, according to Cambridge, are two different points, and they're looking for just one. What can we do about this? Nothing. Because, right, I can say this because I have the mark scheme with me, right? But if I don't have the mark scheme with me, I will, if this was given an exam without the mark scheme and I was asked to correct it, I'd give you points for it, right? It seems fine. Now, the examiner has been given this as two different points. How they deal with this, I'm not quite sure. Okay, you get your mark for the example definitely, and right, you'd get at least a mark for your explanation. Whether you get full marks or not, I don't know. The problem over here is obviously we don't know how the examiner has been given the mark scheme, right? So what's going through their head and what they're expecting, why, if they're dealing with this as two different points or a single point, it happens. sometimes we're dealing with something as two different points, and they're like, no, this is like, for us this is a single point. So we can't, like that, there's no formula or rule that tells us how to expect that. And so in this situation, what I tell students is you do the best you can, right? I'm guessing that examiners will give consideration to this, the fact that you've taken it as one whole point and then you've explained it properly. The whole point is that you explain it properly. If your explanation is proper, then it is more likely that you will be given credit. Okay. All right. So these are all the ones that you could have picked according to the mask scheme: living a double life, so secrecy and deception and cunning, following Ahmed's instructions, so being dutiful, and his public face and playing the role of loyalty or something, being an alchemist at night, so being like a magician, or feeling self-important, or secrecy.
Sir,
Huh?
sir, can we use the word submissive for like the above example?
Submissive.
Yes.
Submissive and subservience. Let me check. It's an interesting one. Let me check. So for this, I need to compare the meanings. Hmm. Okay, so what I'm getting, at least at the moment, is submissive means to voluntarily, you know, yield, or to voluntarily do something that you perhaps not want to do. Whereas subservient is sort of in a situation where you're forced to be obedient, right? So there is a contextual different. Overall, it falls into the same category in a sense, right? But there is
Yeah.
a contextual different to those,
Okay.
right? So if you're doing it willingly, that's submissive. If you're unwillingly doing it, then that's subservient. Okay. So in this case, because he was employed and he was younger and everything, so perhaps he wasn't submissive because he didn't have a choice. So, right, he's unwilling and he has to do it. All right, the kitchen being the laboratory, so he's like a scientist. He's like, he experimented wildly, so he's out of control. He's obsessed, without method or purpose, so no order or planning. Doesn't understand what he's doing, meaningless, increasingly outlandish combinations. So he's foolish, something unlikely to work, getting more desperate. All the soft cheese and vegetable juices. So he's using like bizarre ingredients, and he's perhaps recognizing that even he's going to extremes. Something or some method, right? So desperation, urgency, perhaps, and again, right? He's convinced that there is something to find, and he's also excited about what he's doing. So all of those could be taken as examples and their relevant explanations. All right, so I need to jump over to my next class. Right, I'll see you guys next time. I will put up a composition task as well, so you already have the summary and dieted writing waiting for you. I'll put up another composition, and hopefully you'll be able to manage all three, if not at least, right, two of those from the previous week. And I'll see you guys next time. All right.
Mhm.
All right. Allah Hafiz.